45 years, zero name changes, new offices, more staff, improved technology to better serve you. Education, services, investments. Think real estate, think Marshall Reddick. Brokerage, property management, private lending, creating financial independence through real estate since 1979.
It's so nice for everybody to log on today and take some time to meet with us. We have a really exciting presentation to go over with everyone today. We have clients all over the United States and even the world. So it's very, very unique and great to know that Chris and I, as local realtors here in the state of California, have the option to help our clients and give them other resources. And one of those resources is being confident in their ability to invest in out-of-state properties. So that's what we're going to be covering here today. We're going to go over some ins and outs. So again, thank you everyone for taking time to log on today, and we're going to jump right into it. So again, my name is Tasso, and I'm going to pass it over to Chris.
Thank you very much, Tasso. Yeah, it's so great. I can't echo that sentiment strongly enough to just have folks from all over the country and all over the world get to work with us. Tasso and I feel very blessed to do that. Helping investors is unique because we're not just, I guess we're helping people build wealth, not just for themselves, but also for their families and for generations. And it means a lot to us to be given that trust. So I've been in real estate for over 10 years, I guess getting on to 15, times seems to be flying. I've done hundreds of transactions. I'm in a multitude of states, closed transactions in all of our markets, which we'll get into. But I've really focused with investors, a lot of 1031 exchanges, small multifamily, and all across the board, helping folks whether they're brand new to investing or whether they're on their 10th or 12th or 15th property. So I just feel very lucky to be able to learn every day and to work with really sharp, smart, educated, and experienced people. It's a really fun job. So I'm also a real estate owner. I'm an investment property owner. I own investment property out of state in a couple of different states, one of which one of those markets we're going to talk about in depth in San Antonio. I invest also in our Marshall Reddick mortgage fund. I just think it's such a fantastic way to have passive income coming through. It's truly mailbox money. If you guys have ever invested on the private money lending side, definitely talk to Tasso and I if you're interested in looking more at our fund. So, but without further ado, I'll pass it back over to Tasso and he'll start us off here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris. Again, thank you everybody for logging on. We saw a couple of more people trickle in here. My name is Tasso. I'm a licensed realtor in the state of California. I've been so for 6 years now. I received my bachelor's of business administration from Cal State University, Long Beach. I have 2 years of direct property management experience prior to moving over to our advisor role here at the company. I'm a Husky owner, a student pilot, and I love to play basketball. I've completed real estate transactions here locally in the state of California, Texas, Tennessee, and Kentucky. And like Chris, I also invest in our Marshall Reddick mortgage fund. So Marshall Reddick Real Estate, I'm seeing some familiar faces, some people who we have worked with in the past, but I'm also seeing a lot of new faces. So it's really exciting to see people log on and just get to know us. A brief overview of our company is that we are a real estate brokerage, and we have 4 divisions within the company. So our first division is our real estate brokerage. We help our clients buy and sell their primary homes as well as investment properties. So nationwide, we did around 600 transactions last year, 90% of which we currently manage, which brings us to our second division, and that's the property management company. So we take care of everything from the landlord, from leasing to maintenance, renovations, rent collections, and so much more, so that all our clients, all our landlords need to do is focus on collecting their rent check, spending time focusing on work and with the family. Our third division is our private money lender. So sometimes a conventional loan just isn't the right fit for our clients, and they reach out to us for a unique option. So sometimes, again, when you enter into the private financing, Marshall Reddick provides, and this is really important, non-owner occupied recourse real estate loans to borrowers doing fix and flips, building new construction, or even purchasing new investment property. And then our fourth division is our investment fund. So like Chris and I mentioned, we are both invested in our Marshall Reddick Mortgage Fund. A lot of our clients who buy property with us out of state or in property management also invest in our mortgage fund. And essentially what it is, to sum it up real quick, is the same way you own real estate and collect rent checks, you can invest in our mortgage fund and collect quarterly distributions. So it's a really exciting way to diversify and get a little bit more of that cash on cash return. Marshall Reddick Real Estate has a national footprint. These are the areas that we do the majority of our business. So our private lending is extended into a little bit more of a market space, statewide and statewise. But for property management and sales, these are the areas that we focus on. So Chris and I are broadcasting live to you guys from California. I am in our Newport Beach office, and we also have an office over in Los Angeles, California, in the Pasadena area.
I'm unfortunately in my house right now, if you can't tell from my background. We've got a bit of the flu/cold running around the office, so I'm doing my best to dodge that by working from home today. So.
There you go, Chris. Yeah, that's the thing going on over here. So I certainly had to like keep inside of my little space and then hop in the conference room here to do this webinar. So it's important to stay healthy. But yeah, that's our California side. Moving over to Texas, we have our San Antonio, New Braunfels, and Austin office, all connected by our I-35 corridor. Our newest offices are in Dallas and Houston, both fantastic markets. Moving over to Tennessee, we have our Clarksville office up north, a majority of which our property management options are available in. And then our Nashville office is a little bit new founded, and we're rapidly expanding in that market. We're teaming up with builders and vendors and building a fantastic team around that Nashville market. So it has since expanded pretty quickly, and we're super excited to see growth in that space. You see Kentucky highlighted just slightly above Clarksville. We do manage a lot of properties in the Oak Grove and Hopkinsville area. That's why we have Kentucky highlighted. It's about a 10-minute drive to the border from our Clarksville office. So we still do take on properties under management in the Kentucky area. And then our office in Cape Coral, Florida. So we are not in these markets by accident, right? We have the ability to scale to different markets, but we choose to focus our attention in these markets because they meet all of these 7 points. So this is what you should look for when you are choosing to invest. Some markets might have 6 of these things or 5 of these things, but if they have all 7, it's a fantastic place to invest your money. So we as a company look for all 7 of these bullet points. Number 1 is job market. It needs to have stable employment with unemployment under the national average. We look for a low vacancy rate, meaning there needs to be a strong demand for rental housing. Sometimes in some states, I have clients all the time that send me properties in Ohio or Utah with really low purchase price, but you purchase the property, you get it rent ready, and then you experience 90-day vacancy. It's crazy. So you need to make sure that the market that you're investing in, you're able to turn around and rent the property, right? You're not just purchasing it at a low rate, getting a good deal, and then stuck for 90 days, just not receiving any income. We look for economic diversity. We don't want to be reliant on one employer. We want to see several sectors in the area, like government, education, manufacturing, tech, healthcare, military presence is huge in all of our markets. We want to make sure that we're seeing all these things. Housing affordability. So with the exception of California, all of the states that we're in, we're able to get in at a pretty low point. There's a lot of runway for appreciation in these markets. And when Chris and I kind of go deeper into the presentation, we'll talk about why that's so important. We want to make sure that they're landlord friendly. So again, with the exception of California, states like Texas, Tennessee, and Florida are all very landlord friendly. You have control of your property in these states. We want to have a strong education in these markets. We love to see education because these turn into white collar jobs that will give us a great base for salaries and just potential increases in rents overall. We want to see reliable property management. We happen to provide property management in all the states. It's great. But there should also be competing firms so that you as the client are able to do your research and choose who you work with rather than being stuck with a small mom and pop shop who's running a monopoly on the whole city. You want to be able to have options as the investor and as the client. And then this is a picture taken. These are pictures that were taken during our Christmas party last year in December. Up left at the top, we have our New Braunfels office with the big blue sign. Down on the bottom left, we have our Florida office. On the top right, we have our San Antonio team. Right there in the middle, we have our Newport Beach team, which is home for our property management team, real estate, accounting team, private lending teams. It's a little bit larger. And then moving down to the bottom right, we have our Clarksville and Nashville team. All right. So that was an intro on Marshall Reddick Real Estate, and we're going to be going over some of the topics that we're going to be covering today. So the topic is about investing out of state and what it takes to do that and how Chris and I can be an asset to you in that space. The specifics that we're going to be covering today are how to set your investment criteria as a person who is looking to invest, how to conduct proper due diligence when researching these markets, property management ins and outs. Again, you can go and find and purchase a property, but if you're living in California, investing in Tennessee, or living in Florida, investing in Texas, or wherever it may be in one of these different markets, you want to make sure that you are well versed in the property management world. It can be a very tough job, and there are a lot of property managers that just don't hit all points. So we're going to be going over the ins and outs in that. Locations that provide the highest returns, calculations and formulas to determine returns. We're going to be going over financing and leveraging options for investors. You hear about leveraging all the time, right? What does that mean and how do we use it to our advantage? And then we're going to be going over some exciting performas, some properties that Chris and I have selected that we think are interesting choices. So these are just very baseline. As we get to know you as a client and get to know exactly what it is you're looking for, we'll meet in a one-on-one and we'll custom tailor our search for you and possibly suggest other performers. But these are some we found exciting and that we're going to be going over with you today. So what we expect from you guys as attendees, we hope that you learn something from today's topics. So please feel free to take your notepads out or your iPads and take a few notes. Ask questions in the chat. It's accessible in your little portal there at the bottom. If there is a question that needs a little bit more detail, please feel free to write it down and Chris and I will address it in a consultation. If you see any links, please write or type them down to visit them later or take a picture. And always know that a recording of this presentation along with this slide will be emailed to you within 24 hours of its completion. All right, Chris, I'm going to let you take over from here.
So yeah, that was a great introduction to what we do here at Marshall Reddick. And I guess I should maybe even backtrack a little more about what Tasso and I do as employees of Marshall Reddick. Well, we're advisors, which means we're your consultant, really your personal consultant, and we're the connector, the bridge from when you first meet and learn about Marshall Reddick and how to navigate all these markets and get introduced to agents in particular markets that may interest you, right? We have agents in San Antonio and in Dallas and in Tennessee. They're all educated on how to help investors, but not every property or every market is a good fit for every investor, right? Every investor, well, investors come in all shapes and sizes, just like people, right? We all have different goals. We all have different criteria. So the number one question that I get oftentimes is where to begin as an investor, right? How do I figure out what path to start off on? And let's see if I can change our next slide here, but there we go. So you guys can find properties online, right? You can jump on Zillow, you can jump on Redfin. There's thousands of properties to look at. Single families, duplexes, fourplexes, all in different prices and different conditions, but you may not necessarily know, hey, is this going to work for me, right? Those listings online, they don't show appreciation trend lines. They don't show return on investments. They don't show rents or risk tolerance. So the best way to really have a good grasp of all of these things is to sit down with an advisor at Marshall Reddick and really learn more about what you're looking to achieve, so that way we can match you up with the right property. I think as Tasso and I are probably best described as matchmakers, right? We're learning about you, and then we're going to find the right market and the right property and the right agent to connect you with, and potentially even the right lender too, the right loan product. Maybe you're a conventional buyer, or maybe you need to use something like Marshall Reddick's private money lending firm, like a DSCR loan or something like that, right? So that's our job, is to look at all of these different dynamics with you. So I really think to set your investment criteria, you should be asking yourselves these questions. Do I want to generate more passive cash flow, or am I looking for more long-term wealth? And this is going to be dependent upon your own personal situation. So, maybe a 30-year-old, Tasso's in his, mid to late 20s, right, Tasso? And your goals are going to be a little bit different than mine, right? I'm a little closer to retirement. I don't want to tell you our age gap, but it's pretty big. I think I've heard 15 years now. And my goals are going to be different, right? Tasso might be looking more for a property that's appreciation focused and not so focused on cash flow right now, because he's got a lot of time for that appreciation to generate a ton of wealth. Whereas, folks that I work with that are in their 60s that are doing 1031 exchanges might be selling properties that have appreciated over a 20-year timeline, and they're getting that big pop, but now they're ready to go into a multifamily property, maybe a little bit less nice as the property that they sold in a different neighborhood, different city, but it's going to generate a heck of a lot more cash flow, and that's what they need at that point in time. So, retirement is a really important question to ask yourself. When are you retiring? A risk tolerance and experience, I think, is really having an honest dialogue with yourself and with Tasso and I about your experience and risk tolerance. I talk with folks all the time that are very high income earners, lawyers and doctors. They're working 60, 70 hours a week, and they've got families, and are talking about doing BRRRR strategy and these creative financing strategies of finding off-market deals, and putting in sweat equity and large rehab projects, and that takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of experience. And if you don't quite have that experience, your risk just shoots through the roof. So you should be asking yourself, how much time do I have to dedicate towards learning this new skill, and how much experience do I really need to have in order to pull this off? And of course, qualification for financing, like how much can you realistically purchase and bite off and chew, and what can you afford? What type of financing do you need? So now I'd also argue that you really can't make any forward progress until you know about property classes. Tasso, would you agree that property classes kind of drive everything that we do here at Marshall Reddick in helping our clients?
100%. And I think you hit every single point in explaining all of this. Yes, a property class will determine a lot of different things, and it indicates it on that graph we have here on the slide.
Absolutely. So property classes the property class that you choose to invest in is going to be based off of your risk tolerance, off of whether or not you're wanting more cash flow. So if you look at this graph here, you have luxury A, B, C, and D. The lower you go in property classes, closer to that D, you're going to generate more cash flow, but you're going to have lower purchase prices and lower tenant quality. The higher you go in the property classification, it's going to be more of an appreciation focused asset, but less cash flow. However, higher purchase price and more money out of pocket, and higher tenant quality. So there's trade-offs, right? And maybe a high appreciation property with a lot of money out of pocket makes sense for you guys. Think, your most prestigious markets, there's always demand to buy in there, but man, oh man, are they expensive to get into. So you're gonna have the best quality tenant, that's for sure. You're gonna have those lawyers and doctors coming through but it's going to be not the most cash flow positive property you can find, that's for certain. So the best way to think about this is a quick, I guess memory trick here is A stands for appreciation, B stands for a bit of both, C for cash flow, and D, I like to say, is don't do it unless you have a buttload of experience. So I would probably avoid the D class properties for sure. And how do you determine property class? So, there's a very easy way to do this, and this is actually something that Marshall Reddick and the owners of Marshall Reddick designed. We have a great ebook that goes into this in great length and detail, which we're going to provide you with the link to. But the easiest way to do this is to look at the metropolitan statistical home price for the median single family home in any metro area, okay? So every metropolitan area, whether it's Los Angeles, the Bay Area, San Antonio, has its own median single family home price, and they're all gonna be different, right? So Tasso, we're sitting in, Orange County, and it's about $1.1 million for a single family home. Bay Area, I think it's around 1.4 million. And then San Antonio, it's 350,000 these days. And nationally, just so you guys know, in case you're wondering, it's around $40,000. We're in the 400s nationally. But every metro has a different median single family home price. And the reason why that's important is because that's how we set property classification. That's our baseline. So the median single family home price in any area, whether that's the Bay Area at 1.4 million, or San Antonio at 350,000, you're going to be hovering right between a B plus and an A minus. Okay. Now think of, maybe do a thought experiment wherever you're at, right? Whether it's, San Francisco or in Detroit, Michigan. Think about your median single family home price in your mind. Maybe it's $1.4 million. It's probably in a decent neighborhood, probably a decent school system. Not the best schools, not the best neighborhood. But it's a pretty run-of-the-mill suburban home is probably what you're envisioning, and that's that B plus A minus property. So the lower we go down in price, the lower we go down in property class, and we've got a great graph for this to illustrate for you guys. So this is a part of the property classification ebook. As you guys can see, for single-family residences, let's just take San Antonio, for example, 350,000. If you were buying a $350,000 property in San Antonio, you're probably going to be right at that B plus A minus property class. If you were buying, let's say 50% of the median single family home price, so divide 350 by 2, what is that, 175? That's my quick math toss it. I don't know if that's right, but 175, you're in a D class property. And we also have it broken down per unit. There's multifamily properties, there's economies of scale with that, so it's a little bit of a different metric, but we have a graph for that as well. And property classes are going to dictate not just your cash flow and appreciation, but the type of tenant that you attract, right? So the type of tenant that you attract is really going to dictate your experience, I think, as a landlord. I mean, that's been my experience. So I cut my teeth in real estate in Chicago, for over a decade, lived there and got my real estate broker's license and invested in real estate out there. And there's some neighborhoods you can invest in Chicago that are definitely encompass that C/D class. And the numbers look great on a pro forma. They look really, really, really nice on paper. But in reality, there's a lot of challenges that come with this, right? First of all, D class, they're going to be in lower income areas, below poverty line tenants. I'll think of, Section 8, not to denigrate that program. I think that's a very helpful program for a lot of people as a leg up, but you're going to have a lot more Section 8 quality tenants. C class is going to be more of your hourly employee, blue collar, and then B class, young adult. Maybe you think of a mid-manager. Your Tasso, I guess, is your B class tenant, and then A class is going to be your professional, your white collar folks, your lawyers, your doctors, your school administrators, your principals, those kinds of people. And then luxury, think of your high-end executives or CEOs and business owners. So that's the type of tenant you're going to have, and that's going to drive, once again, your experience, right? So I would try and envision what type of tenant you're going to attract in your A-class property. Well, it's going to be someone that's moving there for great schools, right? They're moving there because the crime is low. So what are they going to want to do? Well, they're going to want to stay in that neighborhood for years at a time, right? Because they're attracted to those schools and their kids are going to grow up there. I like to think of A-class properties as trick-or-treat streets, right? These are the streets that you're going to be trick-or-treating down with your kids and feel safe at night, walking your dog at night. And those types of tenants stay in those properties for years and years to come. So C-class, maybe a little bit different story. Think of a little bit more of that blue collar, maybe a little older neighborhood, and it's going to be a lower price point. You're going to have more cash flow, of course, but your tenants are going to be moving out with a higher degree of frequency, and they're going to be, more vacancy and maintenance costs over time because they're moving out more frequently. You got to do unit turns more frequently. You've got to take more time to find that tenant. So the things that matter most when it comes to property classification are your price point, like we discussed. And once again, all of that data we have at Marshall Reddick, right? So we publish all of this. We can show you the different metropolitan statistical areas. It's published by the National Association of Realtors. We have a link to it that we can give you. Things that also matter, cost per square foot, school district, and crime rate. I mean, we've all heard location, location, location. That plays such an importance into property class. Things that matter very little, I would say, is property age, property size, property condition. A good thought experiment here is think of, maybe Newport Beach, right? If I had a property in Newport Beach that was a total tear down on a small lot and it was a 2 bedroom, 1.5 bath, I can guarantee you that thing is going to be more valuable than a property in Hemet that's brand new construction on 2 acres. That's a 5-bed, 3-bath, right? That Newport Beach property is probably going to sell for $5 million minimum, just because of why? Well, it's got the best access to jobs. It's got the best access to schools. It's got prestige. So that is what matters. And that's what you need to pay attention to when selecting your properties and when investing. And I'm glad Tasso was able to find our slides again. Thanks, Tasso.
Yeah, my pleasure. I did that pretty quick. I was a little worried. I don't know why it closed like that, but we're right back on track.
Let's see if there we go. Okay, once again, maintenance and vacancy is going to vary between A, B, and C class. A-class tenants are going to stay longer, so you're going to have less turnover, less maintenance, and then it's going to just go up and up and up. And these are, by the way, just to give you an idea of this and how this is determined, this is a percentage of the monthly income, right? So these aren't expenses that are going to occur routinely every month, but the longer that you hold a property, the more true these numbers will become, right? If you buy a property in the first year and it's new construction, are you going to have 8% maintenance? Well, no, very unlikely. But if you hold it for 20 years, well, yeah, sure, right? You're going to have to eventually replace a roof and HVAC systems and things of that nature. So you want to set aside a portion of the income that you're receiving from your investment property for the eventuality of maintenance, the eventuality of your tenant moving out in 3 to 5 years. And the reason why you have these higher expenses for variable cost is because of the very nature of the property classes. And of course, with multifamily, you're going to have more turnover, oftentimes more maintenance, just because they're older properties for the most part. So this is a really, really good graph to have. I think a lot of investors don't look at variable expenses. They're looking at fixed expenses, right? Does my rental income cover my monthly payment? Does it cover my principal, my interest, my taxes, my insurance, my HOA, my management fee, my utilities, right? That's your fixed expenses. These are your variable expenses, your worst case scenario expenses. So we calculate this at Marshall Reddick, and it's important to know about, that's for sure. Let's see if, I don't know if you can bring me to the next slide. It's not cooperating with me. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is an example of how to calculate vacancy. So vacancy, an easy way to calculate this is just take the number of days in a year, 365, multiply that by the percentage. That's going to give you the number of days in the year that you're going to be missing income, right? So with an 8% vacancy, roughly account for 1 month's loss of rent. So, and I don't think that's going to happen every year for every property. I've had a property filled with tenants for the last 3 years. It's been great. No vacancy, but eventually they're going to move out. You know, I might need to do some repairs. It's going to take a few weeks to lease up. So I'm setting money aside for that, right? And I think 8% may be a little strong for A class, especially if it's a great area, but we like to be pretty conservative here with our variable expenses at Marshall Reddick, that's for sure. And I've mentioned this already. This is our property rating ebook. This is going to go into all the length that you'd ever want into understanding this and to helping guide you guys find a property class that works for your needs. Like I said, my property class identification is going to be different. I'm a little bit more, risk averse. I like steady Eddie properties that I don't need to worry too much about. I also like new construction. So I'm kind of focused on B class properties. Appreciation is nice. I want to blend of both though. I like a little cash flow. And so I'm a B class guy, but we got A class investors, C class investors, and every type of investor here at Marshall Reddick. And Tasso, if you want to just talk a little bit more maybe about how we choose some of these metropolitan areas and where we invest, I think that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had the pleasure of being able to visit some of these markets with a lot of our staff members. I've gotten to meet the local teams, tour our build sites, and really get to know these areas, build relationships with the local realtors out there, and meet, the builders face to face, walk the construction sites, and really understand the ins and outs of these properties. So these pins here are San Antonio and Austin, and the pins that you're seeing are properties under management that we currently have. So if you notice, there are a lot more pins kind of on the outskirts of these major metros. And if you ask yourself why, it's really because we find a lot of these suburb areas just kind of out a little bit of the city to be a lot more investor oriented, where you can get that B to A class ratio. So a lot of our communities are just outside of the major metros, no more than a 15 to 20 minute drive. So if we look at the San Antonio market, we have a huge office and a lot of properties under management in New Braunfels, all and around there. Coming more towards the major metro of San Antonio, we have the north west side, and then a heavy set of properties under management in that Kirby Converse area on the north east side. So not too much South San Antonio. We do a little bit of the west side of San Antonio, can be beautiful pockets, but it's those suburb areas a little bit outside. And you do see properties under managements in the city. There are pins in the big major metro, but a lot of our focus is right outside. And same with Austin, you'll see that same pattern. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think a reason for that is because a lot of, and this isn't indicative of every downtown area, but I would say a lot of the large metropolitan downtown areas, they've obviously are a big attractor for jobs, but they also vary a lot in terms of age of buildings. You see a lot of older buildings, a lot more multifamily, a lot more commercial. It can be block by block, right, in terms of crime. It can be school can vary a lot, right, the quality of those schools. So a lot of our investors choose to kind of look at those suburban environments because it's a lot more predictable, especially if you're doing out-of-state investing. They've got HOAs, for example. Inner city downtown metropolitan areas, for the most part, don't have HOA communities. Maybe a condo building, but not a single family house community, right? So the suburban areas are a lot more like, think of, if you're in Orange County, think of like Ladera Ranch, Mission, Rancho Santa Margarita, these master planned communities that are well maintained by an HOA. There's a pretty, strict regulation of how those properties can look, right, and be altered, which is a good thing. It's an actual, it's a protectant of your investment. It's another set of eyes on your investment. I own a property in San Antonio that's in an HOA. In the last year, I've gotten 2 letters from my HOA saying, hey, your tenants need to mow the lawn, or your tenants left a grill outside the house that they were trying to sell on Nextdoor for a full 3 days, and you got to have them remove it, right? Well, that's a good thing, because they're doing that to my neighbor too, in front and next door. And so I know that when I go to sell, I'm not going to have a home next door to my property with 3 cars sitting on dead grass in the lawn, right? That's not the case in some of these inner city markets, which is why we focus a lot in those suburban environments that attract families, that stay longer, and they are within 1 hour or less of all of the employers in downtown centers. And you want to be in a larger metropolitan area, because small communities like Tasso mentioned are over reliant on one employer, that can really shift the projection of appreciation and projection of the type of tenant you're going to attract in your home if that major employer leaves. So look at areas that have several 100,000 people or more. And we get calls from people all the time that are like, hey, I bought this house in Chillicothe, Illinois. It hasn't really done much for me in 25 years, right? So, think about that when you're looking at out-of-state investing.
Yeah, amazing. So why buy within a major metro? We have, like Chris mentioned, a much larger tenant base. There are a lot more people residing in the area, a lot more options. Diversification of employers. We spoke on that again. Also, just the ability to not be dependent on one major employer. If that goes belly up, you're suddenly out of a tenant base, or a very big pullback in tenants applying. More selection of professional property manager, you as the consumer being able to select once again. Higher chance of future population growth. There was a study I read on a projected growth of San Antonio in the next 5 years, just being massive, and how that will affect the housing market. And then larger markets experience greater appreciation.
Yeah, we kind of touched on some of these things. We got ahead of us. Sorry, Tasso, on some of these points. But
Awesome.
the suburbs are going to attract those families. This is also where the concentration of the ideal property, at least in my mind, is for most investors, which is like the 3-2, right? The 3-bed, 2-bath, or the 4-bed, 2.5 bath, between 1,200 square feet to maybe 2,000 square feet. They're built in these suburban environments. And the reason why we love those types of properties and investors like them a lot, they do really well. Well, it's the highest demand product, right? From a tenant perspective. And then when it comes time to sell, this is the type of property that tends to appreciate the most, because it's also in the most demand, right? It's that maybe starter home, or second home, right, that someone buys. A 5-bed, 4-bath home in Newport Beach sounds really nice. It's probably going to appreciate, but guess what? That $17,000 a month rent takes a while to find that tenant, right? It might be vacant a little bit. So these types of properties tend to have low days on market when we're advertising them for rent, just a couple of weeks. And we deal with higher quality tenants. And because we manage 3,000 properties, we get to see so much data come through our system, right? We're screening hundreds of applicants every single month, and we get to see what type of tenants are attracted to which type of properties. And this seems to just be the most consistent type of tenant in these types of environments in the suburban market. And we've got data packets on every single market that we invest in. We have our loan analysts, right, that are sending out money to borrowers in all these different states. And we've got to really understand our markets deeply before we let borrowers borrow money from us, right? So we do a lot of intensive research before we lend money into that market, or before we advise our clients to move into those markets. So each one of these data packets can be found on our website. The best way to find them, honestly, is to go under properties, you under invest, you go find a property, you click on a property, and right there down below is going to be a data packet you can download. And what it contains is all the, the essential of those 7 bullet points that Tasso mentioned, right? Employment statistics, growth of jobs in the major employers, but also migration patterns, like how many people are moving into this market every single year. So I really encourage you guys to delve into this and use all of this available information.
I'd say real quick too, the best way to learn about a market is to physically be there and visit. This is a very close second that specifies all the real estate information. And then a third nowadays would be like a ChatGPT search, but these are very honed into the model of real estate investing. I think like a mixture of all that research is just fantastic. But these market data packets really hone in on the investment side of these markets. And I have read every single one in every single market that we're in, and they're just great, well written, and super informative when you are forming your decision on where you are choosing to invest.
Yeah, and one thing to add too, by the way, all these different markets, they share a lot of commonalities, but they also have differences, right? So the reason why we're also in these markets is because they can facilitate the goals of just about every investor. So Austin is going to be more appreciation focused, right? And Florida more cash flow focused. Nashville, a little bit of both, right? So I think you'll be able to find your specific ideal market and property class in one of these based on what you're looking to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. So how each investment success is measured. Two ways we look at this. Cash on cash return, we look for a property that cash flows in appreciation. Chris went into serious detail about some investors are more risk tolerant and they are able to take on a little bit more as far as their ability to put a little more work in to generate a little bit of a cash flow. And then appreciation is always a great play. It helps you long term and will overall just time and time and again be the way that people have achieved financial independence is through appreciation in their real estate. I think a healthy mix of both personally is wonderful. That we're able to find those still these days with options we have with our builders to lower our interest rates. We're able to generate a little bit of cash flow in high appreciating areas. But this is what we look for when determining an investment property success: cash flow and appreciation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And we calculate all of this, and we're gonna jump into that here in just a sec. We're going to kind of dive through a few of our markets, give you an aerial shot of where we're managing our properties, how many units we currently have under management. I think this is actually a bit out of date, Tasso. I think we've got more properties now. Yeah, mine is one of these little red dots somewhere in there on the far west side. But
mine is over in this converse side. I'm over here in this. Chris and I are across campus.
Exactly. I'm funnily enough, we kind of have the same strategy, right? I'm by one military base, you're right by the other. You're right by Randolph. Yep. And I'm on, my goodness, I'm skipping my name. We've managed so many properties, I can't even see the military base, but there's a large military presence in San Antonio. There's 4 or 5 bases over there. And my tenants right now are actually both, they're both medics. So good guys, and I've been there for a couple years. And you'll definitely find a nice steady base of tenants in San Antonio because of that. Now this is a duplex in San Antonio. So you got two rentable units here. We like these types of properties because it's in a suburban environment that's surrounded by single family homes. So there's just a couple dozen duplexes here in this community. A lot of them are actually owner occupied. So one, individual owner lives on one side, maybe rents out the other side or has a family member living on the other side, known as house hacking, right? If you guys have heard of that. And then we have some clients that own a few of these. I have walked this community myself. I've been inside this property, inside this product. Have had clients buy a few of these, and I think they're fantastic because it's right across the street from the school. It literally is walking distance from the school. There's also a community pool that they have access to from the HOA, and can get there and enjoy that during the summertime. So lots of amenities and really close to a bunch of job centers and retail, just 20 minutes away. So there's a huge tenant pool here that are attracted to this type of product. And it's brand new construction, which means it's got a nice warranty. There will be low maintenance for the foreseeable future. There will be low vacancy because tenants like to stay in brand new construction for long periods of time. And especially they're going to be attracted to that school system. So they're not going to move their kids out. We're seeing a lot of families move in. And the reason we see families move in is because these are 3-bed, 2-bath aside. It'd be different if these were 1-bedroom, units, right? We wouldn't see families, but because this was designed to attract them, we've got 1,300 square feet per unit, 3-bed, 2-bath. And then we're going to quickly run you guys through a pro forma showing you how to analyze return on investment and the key features of that. So we won't do this for every property, I assure you, but it's important to do it on one. And we want to explain this to you guys because you can find this on every single property on our website. We do not pull back on data. We underwrite every deal in-house. There's 2 sets of eyes on every property, an agent and an advisor looking at this. So a local agent to that market. So list price is $525, if you can believe it. New construction property, $525 with 2 units. You've got your closing costs you got to consider in there. So you've got your investment capital. Your gross rents are right under $3,200. The developer is offering a really unique incentive program at 4.25% interest rate to help facilitate cash flow. Obviously, 7% rates are challenging right now, so they can buy down the interest rate to 4.25%, which is pretty unique, and that's also why we like this. Taxes in San Antonio, right around 1.5 to 2.25, kind of depending on where you're at. And we got to take into consideration insurance, the management fees, the HOA, utilities, landscaping, all of that. So you're going to cash flow a couple $100 a month on your fixed expenses, and then 15-year ROI is calculated at 18%. Well, how do you calculate ROI? Well, you got to look at a few factors: appreciation, cash flow. Okay. You have to look at your principal pay down. That's really essential. And you're going to be looking at your rent increases. Now, one thing that we don't take into consideration is rental increases. We do take into consideration appreciation over time. So this is looking at a 15-year period with this property appreciating a few percent each year. You're going to have a nice healthy return of 18%, which is better than I would say than most investment opportunities these days, for sure. Tasso, anything to add on this property or the San Antonio market?
No, Gerard Kolodechik and I closed on 2 of these last month, and our clients are stoked. We were able to begin pre-leasing them during the escrow period. We got tenants in there, and our clients didn't experience any vacancy. So these are as good as they come. This is one of those properties where you're just growing. It's a great base or a great foundation if you're a new investor. Experienced investors will like these because they essentially pay themselves off and just appreciate. They're landlord friendly. You're getting an interest rate that is lower than the average, federally, nationally. So they're just these perfect cookie cutter new constructions that make a lot of sense. Our landlords aren't going to have vacancy on them, and they're not going to experience any sort of maintenance. So for me, new construction, Texas, duplex. We also did some quadruplexes. We didn't include any in this webinar today, but it's just with the down payment, if you have it readily available and sitting in an account like a CD or some sort of savings, it makes sense to invest in these hard assets that exist and that you can go visit and call your property manager to get information on. I love these options for our clients and for me personally, and they're a very good buy. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you want to bring us to the next slide? There we go. Yeah, Houston,
Yeah,
Texas. Uh,
Houston.
Go ahead,
It,
Tasso.
oh, I love Houston. One of our top performing agents lives in Houston, Rachel Page, and she is just super fantastic, detail oriented. She's um, elite with her finances and her ability to meet these builders, introduce them to our team members to get partnered with. And we're going to be going over the Whirlway property in Houston. And I know, Chris, you have a little bit of information on the area, being that on your last visit you visited. So I'm going to go through the performa, and then Chris, I'd like you to like explain why this location exactly makes sense.
Yep.
But wow, what a significant price decrease. This is a single family in Houston. Unlike the duplex, it's still under the $300,000 range. It's a single family home. You're getting one door, right? With a 30% down model, no initial repair costs because it's a new construction, and then standard closing costs just under 3%. You're under 100 grand as an investment on this A-class new construction property in a fantastic part of Houston. These right here are like almost no-brainers for me. They're renting for $2,000 a month consistently. Our leasing agents are getting that done in 3 weeks or less. So
Yeah, this is a great area. My wife's from Houston, so I'm familiar with Houston. It's the land of big hair and bigger air conditioners, I guess. You need a air conditioner to stand that humidity. But this is a nice location. This is in the north side of Houston, near the Woodlands, if you're all familiar with that. It's just a very serene, quiet place. This is a Century Communities build, it's known as Lexington Heights is the development. They've got a lower tax base than what's normal for Houston, and that's because they don't have what's called a municipal district tax, municipal utility district, otherwise known as a MUD taxes. So it's cash flows pretty well for a beautiful single family house, which is, imagine trying to buy that out here in Southern California or something. I mean, this would be $1.5 million or something. So really, really beautiful home.
So that's the thing for me, is this area doesn't have that MUD tax, is what we call it, and it allows the property to kind of generate a little bit more cash flow. Now, I know that 181 number isn't the most exciting in the world for some folks, but you have to factor in your investment in long-term appreciation. Real estate isn't like crypto. It's not going to make you a lot of money overnight. It's also not going to lose you a lot of money overnight. It's a very conservative approach to building wealth. So, heading back into this performa here, this is going to rent extremely easy for $2,000 a month. People are leasing these up like crazy. Our rates are a little bit lower than the industry average right now. We're able to get these down to 5.75, lower taxes than what you're seeing in other areas of Texas. Standard insurance rate, property management fee at 9%, which is our standard for a single family in the state of Texas. We have our utilities and landscaping passed over to the tenants. Fixed monthly expenses, $1,818, while your gross rent is just at about $2,000. So before the variable expenses, and again, these are very conservatively factored in. So at the bottom, you might see an estimated monthly cash flow being negative. That is factoring in a couple of different things. That is factoring in a 5% maintenance fee. That's saying that you'll receive $100 of maintenance a month. That is not going to be the case in a new construction property. You're not going to spend $100 a month on maintenance unless something comes up. There are builder warranties that insure these properties. They're new construction, so they're safer models. And then vacancy. Again, we have a track record of getting these rented in 3 weeks at most. With our team, we're often able to begin pre-leasing during the escrow period because we have relationships with these builders. So it's oftentimes you're not experiencing any vacancy whatsoever. Our team will work hard to make that an option for you. So, and then just going over the specs on this house, it's a 2024 build, single family. Oh, and I'm seeing that this is currently rented. Is that right, Chris? So some of these Whirlway Wind properties or the Whirlway Drive properties are actually already tenant occupied. So we'll work for the builder to begin pre-leasing these, and our investors will just buy them and walk right into this. So some of the Whirlway drives don't have tenant occupants. So this one is marked as rented. So it is receiving $2,000 rent, and everything you're seeing here is live right now, being paid to the builder, and he's just looking for the outright sale. So pretty cool. A-class neighborhood, built in 2024, in that square footage range that we look for, and then an extra bedroom, extra half bath. We're cool with 3-2s. This is one up, right? We got an extra half bath and then an extra full bedroom. So a really good option over there in Houston.
Yeah, if you could, there we go. Seguin, here we go. I love Seguin in Austin. Seguin's more of a working class, I would say, B market, a little bit more cash flow in some of these areas. Austin, huge for appreciation. Lot of boom over there with the advent of the tech sector in Austin. A lot of film studios going into the Austin area, known for its fun nightlife. It's a very vibrant city. Very young city, so we attract a lot of like tech tenants as well in some of our properties. So high-paying renters, or renters that have the ability to pay high rents, and we also see a lot of appreciation. They've had a little bit of a pullback, I would say, over the last 12 to 18 months, with a lot of multifamily housing units coming online to satisfy that demand that's slowly being absorbed into the market. And we'll quickly go over a duplex here in this community.
And thank you guys. I know we're approaching time here at 6 o'clock, but we're going to wrap these last couple of performers up and get you guys off in just a couple minutes here. So we'll jump right into the Seguin Staglin Buda performa.
Similar or same builder as the other duplex that was in San Antonio that we showed you. Higher ROI because there's a higher appreciation trend in Austin. Just so you guys know, we take the last 30 years of appreciation on average and just average it out, right? So there's going to be cycles where it's positive, cycles where it's negative. Obviously, we came through a big boom period during COVID, kind of more of a stagnant market the last 24 months. And then we had, it calculated in there, the great financial crash. So it's all smoothed out over a 30-year timeline, and that's how we come up with our appreciation trends for our ROI. And you're just going to notice that this has got a higher price tag because it is in Austin. You're going to attract more rents. The rents here are $600 higher in total compared to that Austin or that San Antonio property.
Yeah.
Do you want to move on to the next one here, Tasso, so we can?
This is just Cape Coral, our Punta Gorda property. This is 180 Madrid Road in Punta Gorda. So there are some special promotions on this property specific. We're still able to accomplish a 3.75 interest rate on this property, which is wonderful. There are options for a year free of property management. So with all that, this is a pretty cash flow heavy property right now in the state of Florida. Florida is having its issues. So builders are really, willing to make some adjustments on their sale price. There are markets that make a little bit more sense, but now, builders that finish these constructions, we're able to kind of push and steer our offers a little bit more in the direction that we'd like. So right now in the state of Florida, in that Fort Myers, Punta Gorda area, we're seeing some great options on these properties that have been sitting on the market. Builder new construction have not been lived in, which is fantastic. So all of these properties are a little bit unique. And I just want to quickly address, I see so many questions here in the question section that we are going to get a transcription on and we will be able to answer. So thank you guys so much for participating or for participating so much. We will get to these questions maybe in a one-on-one after the call. So take a little look at this. This is cash flowing about $605 a month, a little bit more than the Austin and San Antonio duplexes, but it does come with another set of things that may be turnoffs for investors. So again, every property has its pros and cons. So we're excited to kind of go through these with you all in person in our consults. And then Clarksville, wow, we include some Clarksville properties in here. I visited this personally about 4 weeks ago. I was in our Clarksville office with our VP, Scott, and we toured all of these communities. So these are Rex Hawkins homes, brand new builds, and they are cash flowing pretty good. Clarksville is its own unique market in itself. So another fantastic area. You're experiencing less property tax in states like Tennessee, and you're able to get that interest rate pretty low. Still new builds, just a different model. Again, pros and cons. So I really like Tennessee, and I really like Clarksville. Chris, do you want to add at all to these Clarksville ones? I think we have
No, I
about
think
two.
you did a great job wrapping that up. Clarksville, lower tax rates, lower insurance, definitely lower tax, about half or 3/4 of 1% of your purchase price, and just a little less appreciation, hence why the ROI is a little lower. So typically lower prices for the median single family home price is a bit lower there than it would be in like an Austin or San Antonio. So you can get a really nice Class A product at a lower price point for a single
And
family.
what's good is you're pretty much able to squeeze out a little bit more cash flow out of these with your initial down payment. Excuse me, which is wonderful. So Clarksville is also a fantastic option. So we're gonna kind of go through this real quick. Professionally property manager protects your privacy and identity, estimates fix-up costs, get your property fixed up quickly, runs through the rental market analysis and goes through what your property will actually rent for, advertises and shows the property, finds and screens applicants, gets the tenant to sign a lease, collects rent, provides monthly and year-end statements, and then conducts periodic inspections. Our fees are all transparently outlined on our website. So if you navigate to marshallreddick.com and click a specific market, you're able to see our fees and how they are broken down. And then we're a little bit different from other companies. We really pride ourselves on being an elite company. You can see that in our reviews if you take a moment to Google us on any one of our markets. We have extremely strong software. Our CRM is amazing and very user-friendly. Appfolio helps us with not only our property management, but our investment fund as well, and other very just strong software and tech that we have in the company that allows us to prosper and really move forward. There is no conflict of interest maintenance-wise. We never upcharge on maintenance. A lot of property managers will charge you to coordinate maintenance 10 to 20%. We do not do that. We only make money when you guys make money. Cost versus service, which is more important. We're a very service-oriented company. We're priced right in the middle along with other property managers. So if you do your research, depending on the market, in California, we're 7% of 1 month's rent on a single family. Markets like Texas and Tennessee, about 9%. So we're right in the middle on average. We're not inexpensive, but we're not very expensive. And we do have a fantastic, philosophy and management side of things.
And
Responsiveness.
just an incredible
Yeah,
team.
yeah. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, we've got CPAs, we've got folks in marketing, we've got in-house leasing agents, property management. Obviously has maintenance coordinators, tenant coordinators. We do that all in-house. We're not outsourcing any of this, right? Which means that it's very easy to reach your property manager. It's very easy to talk to the folks in our office. And you are very directly connected to your team at Marshall Reddick, as opposed to a lot of companies that are kind of outsourcing a lot of these things. So it's a very much a service-oriented property management philosophy.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Our reviews are elite. Again, please take the time to Google us or look us up on any platform. You'll see what people have to say. And a very flexible cancellation policy. We're not unreasonable. We're not going to hold you hostage. If anything happens and you are super, upset, we have a very transparent and easy cancellation policy. We're not going to hold your property hostage. A lot of property management companies make it a nightmare to exit out of an agreement. That's not the case with our company. We earn your business, and we do a good job and continue to build and get referrals. So one-stop shop. Chris, you want to touch on this quickly?
Yeah, definitely. As I mentioned, Tasso and I are here as the advisors. We're the conduits. We're the first folks that you talk to at Marshall Reddick to have that consultation, and then we are going to be the conduit to whatever market that you want to really jump into, and introduce you to great agents, introduce you to the property management team, help you get connected to a fantastic lender. We have got a variety of lenders, but We've been working really closely with CMG, Reed Hazard over there, just incredibly talented man, very knowledgeable. And so we're going to walk you through that 1, 2, 3 process and make sure that we're always there in your corner. And if you ever want to pivot from an agent or from a market and change, tact, we're there to do that and facilitate that, right? So we're underwriting deals with you, and we're helping you negotiate, and we're staying on top of the agent in that market. So that's our job, and that's how we become this one-stop shop.
Totally.
And these investing key principles, just as a last takeaway, it's got to be scalable. I think a lot of people do really interesting. Real estate is like just attracts creative minds, and there's some really creative things you can do in the real estate space. Short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, house hacking, but a lot of them aren't scalable. And the approach that we wanted to provide you today is a scalable approach that we know has built long-term wealth for many, many people. A company that does real estate and property management keeps us accountable for what we're promising, right? Like if we tell you guys, hey, you're going to get X amount of cash flow and it's going to lease in X amount of time, and then you close on the property, we're going to be the property managers. We're going to be accountable for following through with the actions that we told you were going to occur. So we're going to help you lease that property. We're going to take you all the way to the finish line, right? And the only time you should have to spend your own money is when you buy that property. You shouldn't be coming out of pocket every month for your property. It should be cash flow break even at best, especially if you're in that like A, B class property. I mean, if you're luxury and you want negative cash flow and just solely on appreciation, you can do that. That's maybe not our focus, but that's our kind of our philosophy at Marshall Reddick. And be able to do that over a period of 5 to 10 years, you can really do this with the methodology that we're providing you guys. And make sure you have asset protection. We're going to advise you on that property management asset protection, but also the insurance component, umbrella insurance, liability insurance. We've got the experience because we own investment properties, so we can give you some advice and connect you with the people that you need to be connected with to make sure you're protected long term. And we really, I mentioned this earlier, I call them trick or treat streets that you feel okay trick or treating in with your kids, or letting your kids run amok in, or right here it says feel comfortable walking your dog at night. That's where we really see our investors shine, is buying in those neighborhoods, and that's where we want to manage properties too. So it's aligned in that respect.
Absolutely, Chris. Yeah.
And we talked about this on, reducing vacancy and maintenance and the natural disasters by buying in areas that are covered by insurance or not in flood zones, having properties that you've put significant equity into, 20 to 30%, buying newer construction property. It's all going to eliminate your risk to make this an enjoyable experience. You're not going to invest in another property unless you've had a good experience on your first property. I know a lot of investors that are, for lack of a better term, gun shy, because years ago, they invested without much knowledge and without much assistance, and they read I guess nowadays would be watching a TikTok video for their advice, right? But back in the day, it would be taking a guru class that you have to pay for. We don't charge for that kind of consultation. We believe in free education, and that's where we're going to help you guys develop a philosophy to eliminate risk, to have a profitable investment journey.
Totally. Wow, what a great, we just kind of went really in there, Chris, so I'm very happy. Please, again, take a moment to review what our customers are saying. I think you'll find that everybody is on the same page as far as their, how excited and how happy they are with our service. So take a moment to look at that. All of our educational videos and guides can be found on our website at marshallreddick.com/learn. And again, please take a moment to read through our Marshall Reddick e-rating books. And we really are super excited to have had you on today. So what you can expect from a consultation, we're going to go through the why, goal setting, how, we're going to evaluate our options, when, decide on a time frame, what, set your investment criteria, where, we're going to go through the markets, and who, we're going to introduce you to all the key players, agents, lenders, property managers, and we as your advisors will help you to communicate with all of those parties. Thank you so much, everybody. It has been such a pleasure to have you guys on. I'm seeing all of these questions, and we will get back to everyone in an email response or hop on the phone. We're looking forward to connecting with you soon. This is our information, and we hope to see you again on the next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate you. We'll reach out to you guys individually and answer your questions. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks.